Hello, everybody. Welcome, welcome. Thank you for being with us on this Tuesday evening. It's not necessarily nice outside, but we know that Tuesday is Tuesday, right? And it's busy and it's after work. So I really, really appreciate you guys being here with us and joining us. Tonight, we have a wonderful lineup. Beautiful variety of poetry across the board and beautiful and wonderful people. And I'm just so happy and excited. For those of us joining us who maybe don't know much about our press, we're Get Fresh Books. We are a non-profit publishing company. We only publish poetry for now. And we don't charge submission fees and we don't run contests, but we are running 2 awards. And these awards are the Audre Lorde Award and the Dignidad Literaria Award. And both of these awards are to ensure and guarantee that we always have someone from the Afro diaspora being published and being recognized. And I think that's very important. The way we run these awards, though, aren't like typical contests. We don't ask money from the folks who submit, and we don't pay judges to judge the contest. That's not any shade, slander, or anything towards folks who do that process. We just don't. Our editorial board selects whom we will publish, and that's how we work it. So if you would like to donate towards a stipend for the poets that we do end up publishing, that would be wonderful. Visit our website, gfbpublishing.org, or if you just want to donate to the overall day-to-day functions of the press, that will also be appreciated. As you can imagine, since we don't charge submission fees, we have to be very fiscally responsible. We're a very community-oriented press. Our poets always help us out in return in some way, whether that be manuscript consultations, whether that be using the skills they use in their professional lives to contribute and support to the press. We are a community-oriented cooperative, so to speak. So check us out, or cookies or pasta, Kathy, pasta. And Kathy and I love pasta, so we've had this conversation. So yeah, please check us out. Follow us on social media. Twitter and Instagram handle are at GFB Publishing, and follow us. But more importantly, support our poets. They're doing wonderful work out here in the world, and you'll want to grab copies of their books. On to the reading. Please go batshit crazy in the chat, okay? Hand clapping, flowers, yes, all of that stuff. We love an active and amazing chat. Use the emojis if you're comfortable using them and you know how. Everyone will be muted, okay, until the very end. And once all of our poets read, I'll allow everyone to unmute themselves so they can give everyone a big hand, some big applause. Yes, you are being recorded, and yes, you are being streamed live on Facebook. So again, thank you so much for being here. What else did I want to add? Just in case, well, I guess I can get to it at the end. It's totally okay. All right, our first reader is an educator like myself, and we have spent many hours waxing rhapsodic about how we would revamp the educational system and save the world, right? I'm gonna do official stuff like read bios and things like that. But it's so awesome to have you here reading with us, Mary. And in the very near future, you will be able to hold Mary's first poetry collection in your hands. Mary Brancaccio is a poet and a teacher. She has an MFA in poetry from Drew University. Her work has been published in Minerva Rising, Naugatuck River Review, 2 international anthologies of poetry, and the Writing the Land Northeast Anthology, among others. Writing the Land, by the way, is doing some tremendous work these days, reaching out to poets and writers across several communities in order to do just that, write the land and support initiatives that will save the land. I was talking earlier with Mary about how the earth can survive without us. We need the earth. So this is one of many ways that activists and people are trying to get us to realize that so that we can stick around for a little bit longer. Her chapbook, Mistress of Buttons and Keys, was a finalist in Minerva Rising's contest Dare to Be. Her first collection of poetry, Fierce Geometry, is forthcoming from Get Fresh Books. Everybody, please welcome Mary Brancaccio. And I will remove my spotlight and give the spotlight to Mary. And I think you're unmuted, yes, Mary?
Yep, I think so. You can hear me, right?
Yes, take it away.
Well, first of all, thank you for sponsoring this reading tonight. And I'm just so happy to be with this wonderful lineup of other poets. This is just like, we've all been gushing before we came on it, how nice it was to see each other's faces and be together. It's been a long couple of years with COVID and everything, but we're still here and we're still writing. And I'm going to read tonight from Fierce Geometry, which will be out in the fall. And I think you'll see the reason that the title is Fierce Geometry. You might notice some various references to geometry in some of the different poems across the reading this evening. I read something today that there are scientists who are actually investigating this idea of whether human beings are the only animals that understand geometry or imagine geometry. So I thought that was kind of cool. I didn't know that. It was the only math I ever liked. There was something about the forms of it and the creation of forms that was really intriguing to me. So I'm going to just jump right into it. And the first poem is The Children's Park by London's Imperial War Museum. And it's about when I was a young mother living in London. Like a widow outside a circle of wives, I watch my son play as the other mothers who've grown old together in tower flats eye me. One brings me tea in a chipped cup from the mother shack, and we talk, though my accent breaks as discordant notes on her Cockney ear. She carries my news back to her crow-eyed fold. I'm a mystery, queried a moment, a daguerreotype of a dead aunt in her Sunday best, a bronze visage on a foreign coin, too far removed from the day's laundry piles and thin soup to matter much. Chill of October surprises with its sudden arrival outside this mausoleum to empire that jails bedlam under brocade and hushed paint. Near its iron gate, a last rose holds its own against the onrush. So I press my face to it, hear grandma's song, sweet with its honey of lullaby. Here in this country, she loved and despised, its queen, its reach that clawed its way into her mother's house to claim a son. I am a child that suckled at the breast of resentment. Some here would pen the likes of me in wired camps, death traps, workhouses for the poor, another stolen generation. But I walk these streets free, my boy in my arms, knowing our suitcase lives will not end here in this gray whale that swallowed a world and then spit out what it could not consume. So back to geometry. The next poem is I Discover Geometry. And this began, of course, in my sophomore year of high school. I guide my carbon pencil's point through arc and line as I birth elegant forms on fields of graphing paper, tessellations and dilations. I learn of love, the great transversal that creates congruence from disparate beings. In school, I never master complex sums, but still I learn. Slopes and arrows flood my dreams as my body shifts weight, drops its ballast of gravity into my pelvis. My breasts and hips bend lines into curves. Startled by the fast-changing landscape, I conjure patterns on pages, a secret inside my delicate arches, a face beneath mine, antipodal points caught within spheres of attraction. Years later, I find the man I sought. My thumb marks the nape of his neck. My fingers navigate scapulae of his back, his nipples raised ridge. My hands ride the concavity of his lower back, angles of knees and elbows nestled together, as fluidity open to possible worlds, damp hair pressed against his hip. In time, our breathless gasps subside. We fall towards sleep, embossed on wrinkled sheets. We have weathered broken space, parallel lives of discontent, skewed paths to learn fidelity is less a ring than a Mobius strip. What little I knew of love's fierce geometry. Dirt and rust. On that rutted road through the Midi Atlas, I fell hard for Mohammed's deserts. First startled by absence of trees and vast nothingness, I learned to spot the flowers in the dust. Bitter tang rose from camel turds glistening with grass. Road apples! I made him laugh when I called them that. Our last trip together was his final gift. Even now, as I travel America's West, I compare his world and mine. Once in Death Valley, at an old ghost town, I searched for remnants, rusted nails, cans hammered flat for shingles. I dreamt the storm song on a miner's tin roof as he lay awake, thoughts of the woman he'd send for when he'd panned his fortune from dirt. In the hills, wide alluvial fans mapped gathered destinies during rare rains, congruent paths, what he and I would never have, our lives touching for some years, like palm lines of life and heart that blend before diverging. He'd ask, what does it mean, hick? You're a real hick. Without translation, histories are lost. When the plane arrived without him, I stood for hours under the dogwoods, afraid to move, flooded with longing so deep, I was sure I'd drown. I tried to remember our last phone call over that faint line from Rabat, his hope for a visa, his wait for the interview. When Fatima hennaed my hands, he sat between us to interpret. It took 3 hours. She traced each painted line with melted wax. To pass the time, she shared the story of her life. Her husband in America, who took a new wife and left her waiting. All the years spent praying to Allah, imploring fakers. She read my future in red clay. On my left palm, a rose. On the right, a brilliant red comet. The next poem, it was inspired by a kid I knew who was a friend of my cousin's in Buffalo, and his name was Cosmo, and he had the job of shooting pigeons off the roof of the Polish church in the Polish neighborhood in Buffalo, which was called Kaisertown, and I had family that lived there. So this is a sestina, and so there's a repetition of end rhymes around the words hosts, eyes, praise, body, way, and verse. And it's called For Cosmo, Shooter of Pigeons. As a child, I dreamed of heavenly hosts as bright stars, disembodied heads, their eyes dark as mirrors, makers of God-like praise, all lips and wings, nothing like my body with appetites, angers, a Milky Way, clouds of song soaring in unified verse. But what's their choral refrain? What's their verse? Do they sing of dying street trees? Of hosts of locusts descending on fields? The way weed structure rivals orchid's beauty? Eyes of the beholder mere carbon body? Glory to unraveling, sing its praise. What of Cosmo, as plain as a thumb? Praised be his pale face, his pimpled skin. Give verse with celestial tongue to his body. See now his loud triumphant blasts, you hosts, as he shoots pigeons off the church's dome. Eyes glazed and focused, never seeing the way ahead, the death that awaits him, the way one dies and another is saved. Let praise ring from the rafters. Let us open eyes and throats. Let all creation join the verse until we form cacophony. O hosts, adoring the weakness of the body, see desire convulse his mortal body. Let us understand when we look his way, his magnificence, a face among hosts of heavenly choirs lighting the sky. Praised be his shuffling into manhood, the verse of the street on his lips, pain in his eyes. No, don't look away. Transfix on his eyes, ticking bomb of cancer in his body, a brace of dead birds at his feet, verse and chapter, nicotine air that made way into his lungs, staking the path for praise over his casket, beneath painted hosts of winged cherubs inside the dome, a way to give thanks to his Almighty, to praise dying over plates of communion hosts. And now that we're returning to the commute, I thought I'd include a poem that was actually inspired on a commute from Madison out at Drew back to home, where I live in South Orange, and it's called To the Woman on the Eastbound Midtown Direct. The scent of your pear with its nectar, its August light, conjured my mother at True Value in Shallotte as she chatted up the man with the bumper crop. Right off, she bought 24 jars, Pectin, and drove to her farm in her old caddy to pick fruit. Like a biblical Ruth gleaning scythe-cut fields, she gathered a trunk load of the fallen, not the split skin orbs, but the ripened ones sleeping in wet grass. That Christmas, Mom gifted us jars of pear jam. I wrapped mine in diapers when I flew to London, where the taste of summer cracked the frost grip of winter's deprivations in my bone-cold flat. Today, I thank you for your pear, for your ready gratitude, how you cupped it in your hands and ate deeply to its core. And for the closer, this is based on an experience I had visiting a friend of mine out in Kingman, Arizona, who raised her own livestock. And when we went out to visit her, she was like, yeah, you can go ahead and come, but we're in birthing season, and we might just have to interrupt our visit to birth some pigs. And so we were there and we were having breakfast one morning, and the word came from that her sow had gone into labor. So she said, okay, hands on deck, we're all going down to the pen. And this is Birthing Pigs in Kingman, Arizona. And it's dedicated to Maggie Nelson. Birth such grunting madness, sow charges across her pen red-eyed, all hooves and dirt. Blood and urine slosh into mud beneath her trampling feet. So we dash to rescue each newborn as it drops. Here's the runt. Maggie passes me her tiny body, cold and pale, half my daughter's size at birth. Snorts and screeches of sow's labor carry in the wind this biting March dawn. I wipe placenta from her snout, urge this dying runt to life. Mother impulse. I tuck her in my shirt near my heart, and wear her as she sleeps. Her cool skin warms until it matches mine. Maggie trims the tails and canine teeth of every newborn, then counts 16. Runt's still alive? She squints. I look beneath my jacket. When I rub her bony chest, she stretches and whines. All night, I cradle that pink-eared runt and feed her bottles of warmed cow's milk. Coyotes yap and circle the ranch. We doze. Across a moonless sky, a comet paints trails of green and yellow light. Thank you.
That's beautiful, Mary. That is
Thank you.
beautiful, beautiful. Thank you so much. Wow, how about those images, huh? And that lush language. How fucking lovely is that, man? Very soon you'll be able to hold fierce geometry in your hands. So if you enjoyed what you heard, please be on the lookout when those links come around. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Coming up next is the awesome and amazing Lynne McEniry. All right. Don't go, no. You know you awesome. What are you talking about? You are lovely, amazing, and awesome. All right. I'm about to unmute everybody right now, as a matter of fact, just so we can blow it up. Okay. Lynne, behind the scenes, Lynne is doing so much all the time that I always got to tell her, yo, stop. Like, don't even worry about it. Just stop. Okay. You know, long text exchanges. She touches almost every book that goes out the door in some way or fashion. So, you know, what can I say? Mad love to Lynne. We're not going to start a tear fest in here, but, right? What Marina said, okay? But not too much, okay? Don't work too much, okay? All right, let me get to some business here. All right, we'll get to some business. Lynne McEniry is the author of Some Other Wet Landscape. Her poems have been nominated for a Pushcart Prize and have been twice recognized for the Allen Ginsberg Poetry Award, which she should have got. They have been widely published in journals and anthologies, including Digging Through the Fat, Talking River, Adanna, The Wide Shore, the Lake Rises Anthology, and most recently in the Divine Feminist Anthology, which Get Fresh Book had the privilege and honor of publishing, and as an October feature for Split This Rock's poems of persistence, solidarity, and refuge. Her poems have been used in collaboration with multimedia creative arts projects. Lynne shares her time collaborating on and curating poetry for various projects with Arts by the People. Born in Yonkers, New York, let's give it up for Yonkers. Lynne earned her MFA in poetry also at Drew University and lives in Morristown, New Jersey, where she also teaches writing at literature at St. Elizabeth University. So let's all give it up for Lynne. Here is Some Other Wet Landscape with beautiful artwork by Raoul Villarreal. Right? And I'll ask you to unmute. Give me a second to press some buttons. And I will replace spotlight. Take it away, Lynne.
Hey, thank you, Roberto. It's really, I mean, Mary's voice calmed me, and then nerves again. It's been a long time since we've all been in this room together, and there are so many Drew people here, and I could feel it in my heart, just like I always could when you left home from residencies, and so many people here who, you know, our community has grown to include our friends and our people together. So it really is moving to be able to be here today. And I haven't read with Mary and Jesse in so long, and I've got to experience Christina's amazing work from Jesse. So I'm just happy to be here. And I'm gonna start with a poem by Jean Valentine that I think is necessary in these times that are so full of hate and violence. And I think this is one we haven't heard so much, but it's called April by Jean Valentine. Suppose we are standing together a minute on the wire floor of a Gassenwagen. Suppose we are in the dark. It's warm and dry. We have food. We aren't hiding and waiting. We have grown up white in America. Mostly we're sitting in our own light rooms. Come over, bring things, bring milk, peanut butter, your pills, your woolens, crayons. Nuns pray, snow, it's dark. Pray for our friends who died last year and the year before and who will die this year. Let's speak as the bees do. Thanks, Jean. I miss her so much. So I'm going to read a poem from Some Other Wet Landscape. The cover, we lost the artist, Raoul Villarreal. He's done the artwork for Jesse's book first and my book and Jesse's forthcoming work, you know, so we love and miss him so much too. So when I saw Judith's face, I almost lost it and didn't want to read anymore and thought, oh, maybe I should read My Son, Philip Seymour Hoffman and Me. But I had picked a newer prose poem that I wrote because I was listening to Darla and Grisel and Ariel the other night talking about, you know, mental illness. And I'm thinking about physical illness and, you know, really what's been going on for so many of us, COVID aside, even the last couple of years. And I wrote this poem, a poem with tray tables in it, like 6 or so years ago, but I was actually on a plane about 2 weeks ago and had really another horrible fat shaming incident. And I think, you know, people don't realize the things that are connected to mental health and physical health and how words hurt people. So I'm going to read this prose poem that I wouldn't have been able to write without Judith. And it's called A Poem with Tray Tables in It. The guy next to me on the flight was a nervous wreck, shaking both knees nonstop, taking the in-flight magazine out, then putting it back in, then taking it out again. The window shades went up, then down. I wanted to see the Rockies. It was my first trip ever to the West Coast. Wanted to watch the landscape change, but he wouldn't let me. Plus, it was like he couldn't get far enough away from me in his seat. I didn't want to take out my breakfast. Knew my size was disgusting him, making him nervous, the way he'd glance, the way he watched me struggle to buckle the seat belt, hogged the whole armrest even as he turned his shoulder inward, pointed both knees toward the window, didn't even want his sneaker touching mine, like the fat would rub off on him. I wanted to put the tray table down, get out my notebook, write a poem just like this one, but I didn't want him to see my words, didn't want to hurt his feelings, didn't want to shame him like he was shaming me. It was too small a space, and beside, I was afraid that the size of my stomach wouldn't let the tray table rest flat on my lap. And it was too small a space there in row 34, seats B and C, too small and not enough oxygen to bear my shame and his. And so instead of lowering my tray table, I put my hands in my lap and turned my mind away from the tray table in front of me to the tray tables we had when I was a kid. The metal kind, white trays rimmed in gold, each with a Monet fruit still life. Tray tables with thin brass legs that folded neatly flat, hang on a stand for storage. And when the tray tables came out from back deep of the hall closet, we knew something special was going on. Company, banquet fried chicken night in front of the TV, maybe a rare family game night. I thought of how lucky we were. We didn't have much, but the tray tables were an extravagance, something especially special. And I remembered how we would take the tray tables with us to visit family on holidays. And I remember how sad I was the day after Christmas when my mother had been too tired to put the tray tables back into the back of the closet. And one became the latest victim during my brother's hell raising. The metal leg snapped clean in half. And right there on that airplane in row 34, seat B, I mourned that tray table. and the fact that we were then down to 3 every time company came and on banquet fried chicken nights. And after the plane landed, we were taxiing to our gate. 34C now opened the window so I could see a runway that looked like every other runway. And I began to think about my destination and if I'd see Mount Rainier from the highway. So I reached under the seat for my bag, and while my head was down, I guess 34C thought if he couldn't see my ears, then I couldn't hear him saying into his phone, "I'll be off the plane in 5 minutes unless this fat bitch does a slow sidestep down the aisle." Until everyone in the 33 rows ahead of us got off the plane, I sat in my seat with my tray table down. Now I'm going to read from Divine Feminist, so beautifully curated by Marina Carrera. A lot of people here are in this anthology. It's beautiful, beautiful work. If you don't have it, get Fresh Books, order yours today. Makes a beautiful gift. There's lots of poems and artwork, all by women and non-binary folks. And I really felt honored when Marina requested this poem, especially, and she and my Write On Babes who are here helped me to write this poem. Written, and it's like whenever we get together, right, there's always these connections that we didn't plan to happen, and they always happen for us. And Mary, you read a poem about commuting in the traffic, and this poem is about like how empty the roads were during COVID, that it was almost scary, like a sci-fi movie. And I recalled back to a time that I was stuck in traffic and afraid in the car and frustrated, and come to find out there was an accident where people died. So this is called Holy, Holy, Holy. Holy dead deer on the shoulder of the road, holy 5-car pileup, and holy traffic jam, all make us slow down, all make us decide, do we look? Do we turn away as you save us from ourselves, from our speeding through the day, from our turning up the tunes, tuning out the world as we rush from place to place? Holy dead deer, this day, praise God, you are whole in your leaving your body, your tender, broken body. So worthy of our sorrow, our pouring out of praise, your beauty, your final gift of grace, graces us with the will to live slowly, live tenderly, live carefully. And holy the 5-car pileup, result of the one who made you holy, dear, the one who swerved and the one who hit you and the 3 who hit them. In our mercy and love for them, even those strangers, to us, their holiness calls for us to bow our heads, even ever so briefly, to cross ourselves, Father, Son, Spirit, to pray to God, even in our doubting, because you 5 cars and you inside them are holy in your life-giving to us, worthy of our devotion to you and to all before you who have served in your same way. Even without knowing, you would serve as catalyst for our safety. And holy traffic jam, you who we tend to want to curse, you who become holy when the deer has died and the 5 cars have piled, you become for us holy. You model for us forgiveness, forgive greed, forgive selfishness, trade sin for grace, trade wrath for mercy, trade our frustration for compassion. Holy deer, holy 5-car pileup, holy traffic jam, in your suffering, let us find silence to pray. Let us know sacrifice. Let us beg, Lord or whoever, have mercy on our souls. Teach us patience, grace, and eyes wide open to the holy that surrounds us. And I'm gonna finish with 2 pretty brand new poems. The first one is called A Hint of Beer. and it's in 4 parts. 1, it was not my first kiss, but the one to which all others compare, or maybe not compare, but somehow predetermine if a kiss will even happen. 2, teenagers, dark car parked in front of my house, what was meant to be a ride home between friends. Okay, he had been drinking. We were both dating other people, but always secretly longing for each other. But knowing this would ruin the friendship, it was dark in the car, and he was always drinking. It would ruin the respect. It was cold outside, would ruin the ways we were kind to one another. Dark car and cold outside, rubbing our hands together before saying goodnight. Would my father be drunk when I walked in? Dark in the car and his arms around me, warmth for the run to the front door. My father always drinking. It was cold outside, teenage secrets. Yes, there had been drinking, nothing new, and there had been longing between friends, longing and drinking, a simple ride home among friends. 3, my mouth inside his mouth was soft, like hugging your pillow tight, and all the world is okay. Our tongues cold like raspberry ice pops on the hottest summer day. Our lips pressed together, comfortable, like your favorite old t-shirt. It was safe, like crawling into your sister's bed after a scary dream, and she just lets you be. 4, we were dating other people. He had been drinking as usual. I didn't mind the hint of beer. How could I know how much that hint would be what gets me every time, even all these years later, even before I even know it's there. And I'm going to close with this poem called Broken Conch, and it's for Jean Valentine. It was really hard to not be able to say goodbye to her. So, Broken Conch. In therapy, I'm handed a broken conch, and first thing I hear is your voice and Leonard Cohen's voice together singing to me about the cracks where the light lets in. And I think about how narrow our path when religion tells us who our mystics are, our saints, when I know for sure you are mine among my own cloud of witnesses. I imagine then how we'd study this conch together. Could you be here? We'd hold it low and see the beauty of the birthing canal, twist it right for the dark curve where we could stuff our failings. Then light falls upon the curve where 2 dark spots sprouting a wandering stem remind us of the off-clint at the Guggenheim. You guided my touch from the smooth underbelly to the jagged hook, maker of scars. And before imaginary passing back and forth, I hold it last one time to my ear, hear you two whispering for me a broken alleluia. So thank you so much. And I can't wait to hear Jesse and Christina.
Ah, wow. Had us on fire, yo. I was like, oh, wait. Oh, damn. Sorry. See, I'm all discombobulated and shit. Hold on. Hold on 1 second. What do I gotta do to get my... Oh, I know what to do. Duh. Hold on. I think I know. Figured it out. Oh, beautiful, Lynn. So, so beautiful. Thank you so much for that. Thank you. These last few days have been so great, and I recognize, man, I haven't heard my peoples read poetry in such a long time, and it's been so great to just, have these few days of poetry and get to enjoy them. So I'm so grateful. I just want to give a shout out to t-shirts, because I love t-shirts, and you said that line that absolutely bent me up. And I got this t-shirt and it says, "Through it all, I educated," because so many of us had to teach via Zoom or counsel via Zoom or, fix people's problems, be help desk and tech support via Zoom. And so shout out to everybody who had to go through that. And there's t-shirts for everyone that say stuff like this. So run out and get them. Okay. Um, Coming up next is La Tigra. You know what I'm saying? La Tigra. Let's all give a shout out to Getting Free. Okay, let's give a shout out to Getting Free. Wait, I'm getting ahead of myself. Wait. I'm excited. Yes, that's the next. I'm getting way ahead of myself. I want everybody to please just take a minute and welcome Christina to the Get Fresh family. I'm so happy and I just feel so kind of like excited and privileged that Christina is trusting us with her work and to put this book out there, this beautiful, just astonishing book. One of the things that, always obsessed with me is when I don't have like something to put up and present to people like, look, this is going to be it, but trust me, it'll be here before you know it. So will Mary's book. I'm such a huge fan of Christina's work, of her content and subject matter, but not just that, her language and the way she brings these interrogations to light. Sometimes we overuse certain words, but I think that, a spell is such a beautiful word. A spell is such a necessary and beautiful word, because that means that what's being done is working on so many levels. And I just can't wait for you guys to spend time with the book and get to know her better. So welcome, Christina. We're so excited to have you here with us. Okay, let's get down to some business. And we will do bios. Christina Olivares is also the author of No Map of the Earth Includes Stars, which is such a beautiful title. Winner of the 2014 Marsh Hawk Press Book Prize, and the chaplet Interrupt from Belladonna Collaborative. Olivares is the recipient of Brio Nonfiction and Poetry Grants, a Lower Manhattan Cultural Council residency, and 2 Jerome Foundation Travel and Study Grants, which she has put to tremendous use. In 2019, Olivares was an inaugural, I'm going to say this is the Asian American Writers Workshop Witness Fellow. Is that right? Let me just look and see. Is that right? AAWW? Okay, excellent. That's what I thought. Okay, coming back. Her work has been published widely, most recently in Lincoln Center's We Are the Work. Yes, that's right. In Asterix, shout out to Mahogany Brown, in Asterix and in the Rumpus, and has been published by the Academy of American Poets. Olivares has most recently taught as visiting professor at the Rutgers Newark MFA Poetry Program and community-based workshops to the Bronx Council on the Arts. Let us all just pause and take a minute to give a shout out to the Rutgers Newark MFA Program. I know Marina and Izzy and several others will join me in giving that shout out. It's a tremendous program. Shout out to everybody there, Rigoberto, Dimitri, and everyone there. It's a wonderful program. She earned her undergraduate degree at Amherst College in Interdisciplinary Studies in Education and her MFA in Poetry at CUNY Brooklyn College. She's an educator and administrator, a poverty and prison abolitionist, and a queer American Cuban who is proud to be from the Bronx. Everybody, please welcome Christina Olivares. Boogie down in the house, no doubt. You gotta say boogie down. Wait, let me ask to unmute. Give me 2 seconds. Ask to unmute. Mm-hmm. There you go. The spotlight for everyone. Take it away, Christina.
Roberto, thank you so much for that beautiful intro. And I'm so every time we're in a space together, virtual or not, I feel so safe, and I'm so glad that we get to work together on this book. It's like my favorite thing that's happened. Thank you, Lynne and Mary, for your gorgeous poems. Jesse, I'm really excited to hear what you give us next. My name is Christina. I'm going to be reading two poems from the forthcoming book. The first is a series of prose poems about trips that I've taken to Cuba over the past 15 or 20 years. They're not really ordered sequentially, just fall into the flow. So here we go. It's called Return. Havana, on my first visit. We sit in folding chairs around uneven tables. Asada Shakur enters after her security checks us out. She asks us each to tell her our name and a dream for the future, so we do. She listens to us one by one, makes of us the opposite of a nation, many, distinct, and listening. She takes us the next night to a tertulia in Vedado, where a child in a gauzy dress plays a violin. There's hardly any food and so much to drink. An artist who paints small tiles recognizes the face of a man who he loved in my face. We grip each other and laugh and cry. I learn I carry in my face the face of a man who healed a boy. This boy, now a painter, touches my cheek gently, the way a father might. My archive is this cheek, shape of this mouth, who knows what else. A girl unrolls a cloth to sell candy in the shade. I've carried a handmade map on this trip, which is my second or third, of the intersection where this good man lived once upon a time, patriarch of this family home. Neighbors warn me that the uncle I'm searching for is fundido. I am a time-space traveler, so we are uniquely suited to meet. I feed him pictures of our family through the door. He accepts me, leads me across our broken threshold, grasping my wrist lightly in an O. No bricks, mortar, beams, concrete blocks, iron, planks of whole wood or glass available during the week I stay, so we construct language instead. We wander through the house that he's mutilated. He shows me the town, the library that houses his favorite librarian, best cheese sandwiches, his sitting bench. I ask a lot of questions. He unearths scraps of paper to write spells, prescriptions, recipes. On one, piña. On another, a string of numbers. A third, a sketched dog with mathematical equations for limbs. My favorite part of the house, of which very little isn't stripped, sold, or stolen, is a limbed, twisty tree in the courtyard. At the entrance, a family portrait is fixed to the wall so firmly that it can't be removed. I trace the shape of my posture, mouth, eyes, and the posture's mouth, eyes on the wall. I'm in New York when he passes, and the restrictions in place are designed to make it too complex and costly to cross. A person I love goes to Puerto Rico at the same time, and upon my requests, finds young flowers and lays them in the sea at night to drift outwards towards the point of light on the horizon that could be him. Havana, years later. In July, we can't find Cristal beer anywhere. My uncle in this part of town has dressed to stun, cream, wood cane, gold rings, and we walk slow together to be seen. We finally find a cafe, drink its last 4 cans. Later, a woman takes me into a garden to talk and says the island has been instructed to trap and kill hutia for food. I look it up online, these old men with bellies round as moons beneath sweated out uniforms telling people if they're hungry to eat hutia. For years, I listen, gather the scraps like recipes, spells, fallen fruit. Before I learn how often it'll get me followed, I tell people my surname because it usually prompts a story. In a bluish máquina, the taxista answers with predictable astonishment, adinerado, moreno, del oriente, before he gifts me a story. I like breaking open at that point of touch, is all I ever want. Sometimes others want this too. Anonymize and anachronize my notes, create an archive of soundings and relations, protected by its unverifiability if ever taken during a border search. Then, November 2016, it feels as though everybody started talking. La isla, una cárcel. Che, un asesino. What happens 50 years after you leave your homeland? Abuela wears these chanclas with netting dotted in iridescent plastic leaves mimicking flowers, the ones they sell for over $1 at the dollar store in every bold color. She lives in a part of Harlem that Cubans here nicknamed El Escambray. When the first, since 1959, commercial flights from the US to Havana start, I needle her. Look, it's so easy. They say we can get the tickets online. Don't you want to go? No, no, no. Always I carry some letter to protect me, employer, school, nonprofit, whoever's. the limb these Americas perch on. You are vulnerable. Fidel's Cuba, dream that it is, frees me to dream. I learned that if I am not careful, I will reflexively live out the dreams, hierarchy, loneliness, acquisition of these invented Americas that I did not make, but that insist over my imagining. I learned that I am responsible for my dreams, to choose which to keep, which to use as salve, which to crack open, which to burn. That I have the capacity to dream new dreams and to conjure up those that have been archived inside of me. Botanic imaginings, lleno, llanto, seed and root, dressed in family logics, in slang, in hush. Fidel's Cuba, dream that it is, fucked up my family, dissident, queer, scientist, artist. Some in my family witnessed the revolution's executions, friends, neighbors lining streets. Others in my family drew the list, made the orders, ascended the ranks. I pieced the story together in tertulias, maquinas, entranceways, fields, backyards, cafes, bars, bookstores, classrooms, kitchens, buses, attics, but it stays full of holes, bullets, and otherwise. A different man on a different horse in a different part of the island falls back and back until it's just us riding side by side, away from large groups of tourists far in front and behind us. This is always how it happens. A taxi driver rolling up his windows to speak. A writer closing shutters and beckoning me into an inner room upstairs to speak. A florist bending into a thicket of infant trees, where I am kneeling, astonished at their blooming, close enough to speak. A waiter pretending to have a glass of water on a short break, leaning on a table close enough to speak. A woman who walks me into her garden, listening for a particular silence that will indicate the neighbors aren't watching, then turning her full attention on me to speak. Out here, in this field, this writer who has lost our pack on purpose tells me he wants me to know the penalties for crimes. I want to hear him. He lists them, repeating slowly until he's sure I understand. He repeats himself in the softest declamation, the forms of state violence that boundary his life. Capturing a lobster, bootlegging cigars, the death of a horse, a cow, an oxen. I say, that's fucked. He says, remember, will you remember? To remember is a deception. Holding a thing isn't changing or knowing a thing. But he understands this. He is not a ghost speaking to me who is also not a ghost. I also remember how hot the horse's body was under my thighs, how by noon the sun had cut us sharply into pieces. That night I dream I catch a lobster with my bare hands, 4 years in jail. It snaps in my fingers. In Santiago de Cuba, beyond where the oil barges rise from the glassy-eyed bay. A dream of a horse's mouth open with flies, 4 more years in jail. I put his language in my lungs and stomach to hold for him. I smuggle it here, to North America, where our dreaming is bounded by other violences. A group of ballerinas has adopted me for the night. Upstairs, all they play is New York rap. Everybody here is a child of the Americas. We work it through in one tongue as we sweat it out in another, spectrals of light clotting the dance floor. One dancer says to me, it will strengthen you in your liberation struggle up there if you imagine that North America is part of the Americas, that we are together like a rising flood. Thank you.
Wait, what? That's it? That went by so fast. Oh my gosh. That was beautiful, Christina. We over here blowing up the chat instead of just like shutting the fuck up and listening more. But that was beautiful. Thank you. Thank you so much. Wait, I'm trying to press buttons. Just bear with me. I'm like the worst technical support person. There we go. I'm the dude that asks for technical support, not gives technical support. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm the worst. Thank you for that. Oh my gosh. Yes, we loved it. We loved it. Yeah, we want more if we chat in. Yes, Rachel. Shout out to Rachel Parker. She said, we want more if we chat in. Yes, right? Okay. Handling some business. Christina's gonna keep y'all wanting more so that when that joint comes out, you scoop it up, and then I'm gonna ask her to read for like 35 minutes at the book party. Don't worry. I work them hard, Christina. Let me see. All right, coming up next, Get Free, La Tigera, Yesenia Montilla. So excited to have Jessie here reading with us this evening. Again, just like with Lynne, the texts are fast and furious. They're always flying. And, you know, when there's like a mansion and it's called La Casa de la Poesía, if you ever hear of a mansion called La Casa de la Poesía on some warm country somewhere where it's never cold and it's always sunny, either I started it or Jessie started it, right? Like that's all you need to know, okay? Because I'm manifesting that right now. La Casa de la Poesía is going to be a place, a thing. It's going to be somewhere beautiful, and my God, it's going to be for us. It's going to be for all of us. Yesenia Montilla is an Afro-Latina poet and daughter of immigrants. She received her MFA from, you know it, Drew University in poetry and poetry in translation. She is a Canto Mundo Graduate Fellow and a 2020 NYFA, I'm assuming that's New York Fine Arts Fellow. Her work has been published in Academy of American Poets, Poem a Day, Prairie Schooner, Gulf Coast, and is upcoming in Best of American Poetry. Her first collection, The Pink Box, is published by Willow Books and was longlisted for a PEN Award. And her second collection, Muse Found in a Colonized Body, is forthcoming from Four Way Books this year, so please be on the lookout. Yesenia lives in Harlem, New York, and we all know how we gotta say that. Everybody give it up for Yesenia. It has to unmute, replace spotlight. Yes, I did it. Welcome.
Hey everyone, how are you guys? It's so good to be here. It's been a crazy day. Yeah, I feel like I'm home, even though I don't have a book of Get Fresh books. I feel like that's my home. Also, so many Drew folks here, as others have mentioned, and I feel like, you know, a lot of people, a lot of poets of color talk about their MFA experience as being like this awful, awful thing, and I'm really lucky that it was not that for me. So. Shout out to all my beautiful Drew peeps. I'm going to start with, I'm going to read only poems from the new book. And I'm going to start with a pandemic poem because it's March, and March makes 2 years that we've been working from home, at least I have. So I thought I would start off with this poem, A Brief Meditation on Breath. I have diver's lungs from holding my breath for so long. I promise you, I'm not trying to break a record. Sometimes I just forget to exhale. My shoulders held tightly near my neck. I'm a ball of tense living, a tumbleweed with steel-toed boots. I can't remember the last time I felt light as dandelion. I can't remember the last time I took the sweetness in and my diaphragm expanded into song. They tell me breathing is everything, meaning if I breathe right, I can live to be ancient. I'll grow a soft furry tail or be telekinetic, something powerful enough to heal the world. I swear, I thought the last time I'd think of death with breath was that balmy day in July when the cops became a raging fire and sucked the breath out of Garner. But yesterday I walked 38 blocks to my father's house with a mask over my nose and mouth, the sweat dripping off my chin only to get caught in fabric and pool up like rain. And I inhaled small spurts of me, little particles of my DNA. I took into my body my own self and thought I'd die from so much exposure to my own bereavement. They're saying this virus takes your breath away, not like a mother's love or like a good kiss from your lover's soft mouth, but like the police. It can kill you fast or slow, dealer's choice. A pallbearer carrying your body without a casket. They say it's so contagious, it could be quite breathtaking, so persistent, it might as well be breathing down your neck. So that's a brief meditation on breath. This next poem is titled after the second book, Muse Found in a Colonized Body. What can I say about it? This poem is in 8 sections and it's scattered throughout the book. This is the first part, and it has an epigraph by Allen Ginsberg, which states, "There's no greater love than the love a wolf feels for the lamb it doesn't eat." Muse Found in a Colonized Body. They say when the Spaniards came, we thought them gods. They came with sincere eyes, but insincere mouths and cocks. They knew something about the universe, and we only knew about the earth, not about the stars, unless being guided by them is a kind of knowing. But no, in those days, the stars knew us more than we them. And that might be the difference between the wolf and the lamb, our relationship to bounty. I think what I want to say here is that to the wolf go the spoils, and yet there's something about being a lamb, the danger, the never knowing when the wolf will be hungry enough. How do you not love yourself when you constantly survive your undoing just by being precious? I don't like coyness. If I love you, I will take your mouth first because that is where the breath lives. Does that make me a wolf? Or does this? When I'm near you, I shackle my intentions and feast with my eyes. I won't dare eat of your flesh. How could I? It would be like the snake that eats itself from the tail. Eventually, it chokes on everything. Its rough scales, its heart all colonized and tender. The whole world becomes its body, half-eaten and dragging in the dirt. So I think my heart, the dear Alexis DeVoe is here. If she is, I'm reading this poem for her. I think this is her favorite poem in the manuscript. So this is for you, Alexis. All barns are red because of dying stars. The irony of stars, lonely and on their deathbed, being responsible for the color of barns, and how this should be its own kind of table full of elements that we've never been able to fully realize, peace or brotherhood. And I'm sitting here trying to remember if I've ever seen a barn any other color but the color of dying things, or if I would ever want to bask in the slow temperament of a blue barn with its cool lulling song, or a kind of green that reminds me of a spruce or freshly cut grass. In the dead of night, I imagine a star whirling its way to earth, weeping as its light goes out, landing in a field somewhere in upstate New York or nowhere, Idaho, and becoming a barn, living out its afterlife, bloodied and hollow. What a simple way for such a God to retire. If only all of us could die out this way, protecting cows, horses. Steel Gray Must Exit, and that title comes from a book I read about Basquiat. So about Susan Malou, who was his lover. So Steel Gray Must Exit. Nowhere to go, but you have to go somewhere. If I had a garage, I'd have a sale. Everything must go, even the garage. My obsession with teeth would prompt me to keep my toothbrush, and my ovaries, how they cry lately. Maybe I'll leave my birth control pills behind, make love to a wanderlust with a wild beard and a sweater like moth fodder. Our baby will look and sound like Iggy Pop, born with eyeliner on, and I'll never come back, not even for funerals, not even if they bought me a ticket. A complicated news. Last night, I could have sworn I time traveled, not forward or back, but askew and slanted. It's my new superpower, how I move through the world, never in a straight line. I want to know everything about myself, so I spent hours asking the hard questions. What city do you really belong in? What goddess are you? What mythical creature do you most resemble? How many days would you survive in a zombie apocalypse? How do you love? Imaginings are wasteful, how we invest in them, and eventually we will break a mirror or spill salt, and all the reverie will be for naught. I want a muse with fishnet abs that can double as a dream catcher, or a mesh for capturing extinct things, unicorns, hands on my body, salvation. If I take another BuzzFeed quiz that says my spirit poet is Sylvia Plath, I'll go back in time and befriend her, stroke her hair, and kiss her mouth deeply in hopes that the oven never turns on. Everything is crumbling. So I looked up my birth chart. I needed a reminder for why I always want to run away from stability. Being a Leo in sign and rising can't compete with my Gemini moon, how it becomes bored at the slightest sense of habitual dress up, how it fears being a fraud, and my Venus, how it resides in Cancer and its seventh house of perpetual falling, how I might die falling off cliffs downstairs in love, how if I look at someone and wish, be mine, what I mean is, tell me I'm worthy, how all I really want is to be a Pisces moon like my mother, whose madness is a cursive M pinned to the soles of her feet, how she steps off chairs and buildings and trees and never falls, how she floats, a star dangling, a spore, an albatross strewing against a periwinkle blue. And this is the last poem. It's called Notes on Self-Care, and it's for Nazim Hikmet and Araceli Girmay. Nazim Hikmet wrote one of my favorite poems on living, and Araceli Girmay wrote one of my other favorite poems on kindness. So I kind of wanted to pay homage to that. Notes on Self-Care. What better way to forget that the world is burning than by imagining me in London town with Idris and his Luther wool coat with its deep pockets where both my hands fit. As he walks me to my flat, and the decor is ridiculous, French chic with some touches of Kentucky country, but it's my fantasy. And there's no room for black leather couches or 70-inch TVs. No bachelor Shangri-La here, no beer in the fridge, only rows and rows of vintage Bordeaux. I chase Idris across my forehead, whirling into bed with him like a wrecking ball, envisioning his scruff face against my neck, his beard, better than any exfoliator I've ever owned, his languid fingers like rakes against my plump body. And he loves my poems, all of him, his 40 trillion cells at attention to every stanza I write. And what better way to live than to desire this way? And this is not escapism, it's survival. One day, this earth will rot, or worse, be made good. And there will be no need for this sort of daydreaming. One day, this earth will be good, or worse, will be good, and Idris will be a faint taste of something I once wanted, like trees shedding against a November sky. I'll sit down to write a poem about the time I fantasized I made love to Idris Elba, not remembering how in my sorrow he held me like one of my metaphors between his fingers, as though my poems were delusions, foliage falling to the earth, routine and dying, thin as rice paper, tender as paper cranes.
God damn. Thank you so much, Jesse. Oh my gosh, chat blowing up. You know, I love Luther, maybe not for the same reasons, but I do love Luther. I do. Sometimes maybe for those reasons, you know what I'm saying? It just depends. It's all very fluid. It's all very fluid. Oh my God, magic. Beautiful. Chat's blowing up. You guys, what a wonderful, wonderful reading. Again, I'm so grateful and thankful to you all for being here. Before somebody said, Roberto, that's funny because yeah, right? Like, just before I open it up to everyone, I'm going to put in the chat that Jesse Buell, who is one of the people running things at SMOL Fair, is hosting a giveaway. And so she jumped in and messaged me and said that if I put this information, if you all just want to participate in the giveaway and see if you win it, just email Jessie Bender and say you were at this reading, and she'll maybe pull a name out of a hat, or I don't know, or give as much as she can until she doesn't have anything else to give. Give it a shot, please. Yes, everyone will get a book. There you go. There's Jessie Buell. So please write down that email address and send an email and get yourself something. That's wonderful. As a matter of fact, Jessie, send me an email and we'll send some stuff over to participate in the giveaway as well. Okay, so that folks can get maybe some t-shirts or books or something like that. Okay. All right, I'm going to switch now to grid view so we can see everyone. And if you guys want to come on camera, if you guys want to unmute yourselves, I'm going to invite you to, so you can give all our readers a round of applause, and give people permission to unmute yourselves. You can go ahead.
Yay! Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful.
Gorgeous.
Great
Love
job.
you so much. Love it.
Thank you so
Beautiful.
much.
It's gorgeous. So many poems ripping my head open. Really
Yeah. In the best possible way.
incredible.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Thanks for being with us, everyone. We're going to be back at it again Thursday, then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So we got a bunch of readings left for everyone. So please just stop by, check us out, and we're gonna have some fun. It's gonna be a good time. I'm so grateful for Small Fair because it provides a wonderful alternative to AWP. It's free, it's virtual. You really can't beat that, you know. So I'm grateful. And so everybody going to AWP, please be safe and careful. And I wish you all a great time and a bunch of success. Truly, truly. Mad love, everybody. Have a wonderful evening.
Mad
Love you guys.
Love you.
See
Thank
you
you.
Thursday.
Mad
Cheers,
love.
Starla.
Thank you,
Happy
Roberta.
Thanks,
elected.
everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye-bye.